implementation we have done, the most of the implementation were they were on the plain directory. Okay, I mean the actual Azure Active Directory. Okay, so we didn't do any implementation on Azure AD B2C or B2B kind of application. Okay, so one of the benefit of using Azure AD B2C kind of application is it's mostly consumer facing web apps and mobile apps. Okay, so what happens is like you would be having a lot of mobile applications and as well the web clients, or you would be running Windows apps, or even your desktop clients want to, or your native clients want to get authenticated with Azure AD. Okay, and in order to make it light, and if you don't want to put a lot of efforts in adding up a lot of different identity providers like Facebook, Google, and or LinkedIn, or in cases like if any new identity provider is coming, you doesn't need to bother about much and do some code changes. Okay, so if you don't want to do some code changes with respect to any identity providers with which are actually getting onboarded to which are getting which are coming into the market, and you have users with those identities in the market and to whom you need to onboard. Okay, in that cases, like in basically for this B2C cases, like it's not compulsory that your user should have an identity in your Azure AD. That's why this B2C concept is there. Okay, you have business means you have activator at your end, and that would point to consumers who doesn't have any identity in your Active Directory. Okay, so that's what is B2C. So for this, what happens is like whatever native client, web app or mobile app, they are basically OAuth client. They would make a OAuth call, okay, to get a token, and then they would they would authorize themselves with the, let me use this, they'll be using an authorization server like OAuth endpoints. Okay, and then they'll authorize themselves. I mean, this authorization server would have it would be a single identity provider kind, or it would be a broker kind, which actually knows what is Facebook, what is Google, and what are other particular whatever LinkedIn or something. If any new social identity providers are coming, they would know, they would get updated, and that would integrate it with the Azure Active Directory. Okay, so this authorization server would give whatever you opt. If you opt for Google, then your call would go directly to Google, and then that Google would provide you a token after successful authentication to the authorization server. Okay, and then that particular your credentials would be persisted, or your email ID would be persisted in Azure Active Directory. Okay, which it will get as a claim, and then it will create an user attribute for you as well, and then it would give, Azure AD would give a token, and that token would be presented to whatever resources or REST APIs a particular user is trying to access via mobile app or any native apps. Okay, so that's how Azure B2C work. So if you check in this particular thing what I've described, then like a user comes, he may log in with a browser, or he can just open a mobile app. Okay, so when that happens, mobile app would as would do a successful authorization with a web server. Okay, where exactly the app is hosted. Okay, and then like this particular the authorized OAuth 2.0 authorized endpoint would give a token and authorization code to browser or your app. Okay, then it would post this particular token or authorization code with the redirect way to the web server, and then web server recognize that yeah, he is an authenticated user. Okay, and I'll just take up this claim which is returned by authorize like this particular OAuth to authorize endpoint, right? It would know like what kind of identity providers, whether this particular authentication happened by LinkedIn, Microsoft, or Gmail, or Facebook, or Twitter. Okay, then what it takes, it validates that particular validates this particular user, validates the ID token, and then it sets up in that session cookie. Okay, then this particular cookie, once he gets authorized and he would have all the claims in this particular cookie, he would request, and I mean like in behalf of you, the web server would make a call to the to fetch a token with the with the ID token which he got from the authorized endpoint. So the ID token it would have, and it would take up the app's client ID and credentials as well. Okay, and then it goes and that particular ID, the after logging in, the user attribute would be created in Azure Active Directory. Okay, since like with this credentials or the client ID whatever you are providing, the my client ID would be recognized in Azure Active Directory. Means this particular API would be recognized in Active Directory, or this particular application will also be registered with Active Directory. Okay, so once you have a proper application ID presented by this particular app, then it will get a token, and it also have a credentials, user credentials, which would be given from any of the third party identity provider. So that would be, a claim would be presented, like email ID or something would be presented to the Azure Active Directory. Then it would create a user attribute in Azure Active Directory, and then it creates a token. Okay, one ID token, and one more is a refresh token. Okay, and then after getting the token from the token endpoint, just a minute. So once you have this particular, the two tokens, ID token and the refresh token, those tokens would be, taken up by your app or native application or your web client, and it would go and, like mobile clients or web clients are, light in nature, so they have all the logical processing somewhere in web APIs. So the same thing, in order to access those, do some logical processing or, image processing, you actually have at web API. But in order to access the web API, you need to have a token, and that token would be given by Azure AD. Okay, and once you have the token, it validates the token and sets up the session with this particular web server. Okay, and in case that the token would expires, right? You have a refresh token. With the refresh token, it goes again to token endpoint and gets a new token, and then presents to web API. So that's how the complete Azure AD B2C flow works. Authentication works. So these are basically the integration. I have this particular code which I have it's there, here, this place. Okay, I have checked in my code into this my repo, the Sugar 007 repo. Okay, you can get this code, clone or download this particular code, and then you can get the info. And what I am talking about there is like I have a web app. Okay, it's basic .NET web app. Okay, I mean you can use a mobile client as well here. It's a basic web app which have two. Let me open the solution. So it's a basic web app which has a service web API. This is a web API. Okay, and this is a web application. Okay, so my web application is that is a person who will actually make a call to two endpoints, one authorization endpoint and another token endpoint. Okay, so this is a B2C application which I have made. It's a basic .NET multi-tenant app, and I have this service which have actually the logical thing, or this is a to-do list app. Okay, what you do is like you just add up some string and it would store in this particular service. Okay, so it's a node kind of service. Okay, so what you need to do is like you doesn't actually need to bother about what kind of identity providers, whether it's Google or LinkedIn or Microsoft or Facebook. Okay, which with whom you need to integrate. Okay, the only thing you would bother is about the application bothers is it need to register the service. This is a service. Okay, and the this is our web app. Okay, and the web app has this web.config, and in this web.config, it only actually bothers about what is that client ID, what is the client secret, like what is my AAD URL. and the what is my redirect URI. Redirect URI will be your application URI. Since I'm running this at local, that's why I would give localhost some port number. And the login dot Microsoft, this one is that like the call which you're gonna make, okay, for with open ID call you would make. Okay, so basically what happens is OAuth is there, right? OAuth is a protocol which actually take care of other identity providers, everything. Okay, like the integration of other identity providers with Azure Active Directory. Okay, and OpenID is the way where actually your application and go where your application go and talks with Azure AD. Okay, your application doesn't talks with an OAuth, but it talks with OpenID protocol. Okay, so OpenID is implemented by Microsoft, and then and the OAuth is followed by a lot of different companies, like even Google follows OAuth protocol, because protocol is a means or necessity by which you talk with other particular systems, right? So via OAuth only Google, Facebook, or any other guys would talk to any of your system. So OAuth is there uh, where Azure Active Directory talks with external applications, external identity providers, basically. Okay, and OpenID is the way where which is exposed by Microsoft, and all applications who want to talk with Microsoft AD would talk with OpenID. Okay, so these are the basic necessity, and you never, or I mean, you are nowhere mentioning, the exact or like for Facebook details or something, because you need to, if you need to integrate some of your application with Facebook, right? You need to have an identity, or you need to have a developer profile or developer subscription with that particular Facebook or Google or something, but you are not mentioning any details about them. Okay, rather like the same thing for the with respect to service also you need some details, like the OpenID URL, the tenant, client ID, and sign up policy ID. Okay, so this sign up policy ID is like sign up sign in policy ID is like it will use this ID. We have certain places in the views. Okay, which actually have this particular sign in policy, sign in IDs, and when you click that, the call would go to that particular places, would go to the profiles whatever may be mentioned in on, like web hosting. No, where's my URL? Okay, it may be in master. Claims. So when you click that particular button, which would be there in the UI, like sign up or sign in, so it would call up this particular method, and then that internally uses this particular config. Okay, sign up sign in policy ID, and it would make a call to OpenID. Okay, so I'll describe what is sign up sign in stuff which I'm talking about. So you're nowhere mentioning the details about this particular account. Okay, rather you actually just mentioning the AD details. So your application is actually authenticated to Windows Azure AD, and your Windows Azure AD will have trust between Windows Azure AD and with the other identity providers, with other companies, Google or anything else, but you have trust with only Windows Azure AD. So what you're going to do is like as you trust Windows Azure AD, whenever you run an application, it will just accept I mean, like whatever data would be given Windows Azure AD. Okay, so a user would try to access you. your application, and you would redirect them to Azure Active Directory to get authorized, and to get authorized via any of the identity provider he selects, Google or something, and then he would get a token, and he would make a call to again to the call would come again to this particular application, and this application would redirect to it will make a OpenID call, okay, to Azure AD. Okay, when it makes OpenID call, it will get a token, and after getting the token, it will make a call to this particular service which is hosted here. Okay, since this service would only respond on tokens, that's why. So let me explain what are the configuration changes you need to do with respect to B2C. So you have lot different places where actually you need to get these all details. Okay, for different identity providers you need to get application ID, okay, or client ID with them, and then you can give those credentials to. So you can see that I have registered. I have a registered Facebook. Like I have a Facebook my account, and then on top of Facebook account, I just created a app. Okay, test app. Okay, the Yoga app, and then like you can also add a product or add an app, add an application which you are developing, so that you can set up an authentication with Facebook. Okay, and this analytics page. So what you do is like once you create an app, you give a lot of details like the page details, everything. Okay, and I need to, like, to see the app, I need to provide my Facebook credentials, everything. So you have something called as app ID and app secret. Okay, so you're gonna take this app ID and app secret after creating a app on Facebook. At developers Facebook developers page dashboard, you will get these keys. So you need to paste these keys in the here. Okay, let it read on. Since the Facebook need to trust an identity provider like Active Directory, and Facebook talks in OAuth, okay, and AD also talks with OAuth. So I can go and add an identity provider. I go and add an identity provider like this. I'll select identity provider. I'll select for Facebook. I have added already Facebook. That's why it's not showing here. And you will just give this, and you will give the client ID here. So this app ID would be here, and the app key will be here. So once you are done that, you can see that your Facebook thing is added. Okay, means it's added to your Azure ID. So you have trust between your Azure ID and Facebook. The same thing like this is the analytics page where how many sign in you are doing with respect to Facebook authentication like this. So I made a login before this session, so you can see that one particular login you can see. Okay, and which is there on 10th August 2028. Okay, so that's what is Facebook analytics show you. And then you have same thing like you can actually take up or use of Google APIs as well. Okay, for this authentication, for that you can go to dashboard and create an app. Okay, once you create, enable APIs and services, and then like you need to sign in with your Google this one any accounts, and then once you create an app in here, okay, you can create a credentials. So this is a test web app which I have created. Okay, and I have this client ID and client secret, okay, which is shown. And if you want, if your application talks in JSON, you can download a JSON format of this. Okay, and then I just add something interesting stuff like reply URLs or who gonna make call to Google APIs. Okay, so I would say that my call would be coming from Microsoft, right? AD would do, and AD the initialize with login.microsoftonline.com. So I'll add that, so that calls from this when it comes, right, it would allow and make this authentication possible. Okay, and the redirect URLs would be somewhat OAuth 2, because AD talks with Google APIs in OAuth 2 language, right? So OAuth 2 auth response. Okay, so this page, this also you can get it from, if you Google search, then you will get the details like which particular URLs to you need to add. So this is my tenant. Okay, it would reply my response for this particular application authentication which I am doing with Google. Okay, whoever comes with the Google identity provider, he wants to authenticate with sign in with Google identity provider, their response would go back to this particular tenant under OAuth 2 as a OAuth response. Okay, so that's what is like setting up with Google. And the same, whatever client ID you get, you just go and add up the identity provider and add it here. That's it. Same for everything. Even for LinkedIn, you have the same process. This is a document which I shared, and you'll find these details in here in the snapshots. The same thing which I'm showing. Okay, it's there in here. Okay, for every app, so that it would be easy. And I have added this URL in this particular first slide of this session, and you can check that for LinkedIn also, it also works with OAuth 2.0. Okay, and it will show how to configure as well. And for Microsoft as well, you can configure if you have Hotmail account or Outlook account, so which is provided from Microsoft. Okay, so for that also you can go and whenever you create your I mean, like, you have your Microsoft profile, right? So whenever you create a Outlook or Outlook account or Hotmail account, you'll get that. So you can go to that particular apps.dev.microsoft.com and the slash application. So you can go and create an application and create a password for it, and you can create a certificate as well. Okay, for this. Okay, you can create a private key, I mean, which actually says that it created a certificate for you. A certificate would be downloaded to you. Okay, and then you can give these details. Actually, in certain cases you need to have certificate to make authentication, and in certain applications you just need this particular application ID and password. So for B2C, it's very easy. You just need to have application ID and password. So once you have all these details, once you place them, and you would define like user attributes. You can select these are all the user attributes which are there. Okay, I mean, the user attributes are sort of claims, okay, which you would be interested to collect from these particular identity providers. Okay, or your application which you have added, B2C application which you have added, will be interested to get this particular details from your Active Directory. Okay, so that's what is user attributes. You can add a custom attribute as well, and you can add users or groups who can access this particular AD as well. Okay, and that's it. With that said, I have 5 users in it. Okay, I'll show up that as well later. We need to went to this page, and we have certain kind of sign up or sign in policies. So like in order to like in particular legacy application, what happens is, like, you need to have a sign in button, sign up button, everything. Okay, so if you have certain buttons in your application, right, you just need to copy in this particular URL in like behind that particular button. Okay, so when he tries to click, right, sign in or sign up, right, it will just go and try to authenticate with your Azure Active Directory with OpenID protocol. Okay, so that's what will happen. Like, you can run them now as well. So it will try to show up the authentication page, okay, itself. So it is showing Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn. Okay, so that's what is there. And I have and this is the Microsoft one. Okay, so I have 4 authentication in place. This is a sign up or sign in URL. The same thing, like, you can set up a password reset policy also. So the password reset when you do, right, so your user attribute, like, once you have onboarded, you will have your profile created onto, like, or for Microsoft account, right, you can set up this password reset policies. Okay, when you click this, I don't know what is this. Yeah, I don't know. It should have come. Yes. So whatever email ID you have, right, at the on the email ID which would be created for you as an user attribute, or if Microsoft account you have, right, hotmail.com or anything, and you can actually go and send a verification code and you can reset your password. Okay, after you get the verification code, you can reset your password. So that's what is a reset it says about. Resetting password policies it says about. And if you want to define sign up and sign in differently, then you can do that, and you can define your custom policies as well. So this is what I mean, without any these are all policies which you have. And have any sign up policies? I hope not. Yeah, so the same sign up or sign in policies are same as one we have here. Okay, sign in policy will have the sign in or login page. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong place. Run now. This will have a sign in page. Okay, and when I click a sign up, the same thing, it would have, it should show up a sign up page. Okay, so how you want to sign up? I want to sign up with Google or Facebook or LinkedIn. Okay, so if you don't have any identities, you can have option of this to get onboarded. Okay, so that's what is complete integration of this B2C application with the external identity providers. So these are the only configuration which you have. So once this configuration you have done, where you do is you do in Azure B2 AD B2C. Since Azure Active Directory is a plain Active Directory, okay, you have this particular layer Azure AD B2C where you do all this stuff. So you need to, as I said, you need to add the application as well, right? So I've added this particular application, my client. Okay, Azure Guy B2C app. Okay, and I use the same client ID, application ID in my application. Okay, so my application is this. So I use the same, since both the service and the client both would be sitting in the same place, right? Same Active Directory. So I can use the same tenant ID or client ID or application ID for both of this application. So you can see in both of, just let me close this. So in both the web.config of each of the projects, I've used same client IDs. Okay, which means that this particular ID, this particular application, they're gonna use. And so these services have a all valid application ID in their system. So when they call with an open ID protocol to my Azure Active Directory B2C, it would recognize it as an authorized one, and it would allow, like, it would check like what kind of identity providers are configured for this guy. Okay, so whenever they click some sign up or sign in policies, they will be redirected into all of these particular identity providers. Okay, so that's a thing. And user attributes I have mentioned as it. And let me go one particular place, LinkedIn. You can, like, in certain identity providers, like, would take up an extra user attributes as well. Okay, so I don't know, I can't see like this. And let's go and run our application. So it would run both service and the web client as well, web app as well. So my service is running in one page, and this is my client. And I'll just proceed. So in this particular, it says HTTPS but doesn't have a valid certificate. This browser doesn't have it, that's why it is showing this wrong. I'm like cross signal. So once you have this, okay, this is my API. Okay, so it's not there. So this is my API which is hosted, and where's my client app? Okay, so this is my client app. So I can go and sign up or sign in. And I can click here claim, so it would do automatically that stuff only. Let's go and sign up or sign in. So let's sign in with Google. So this complete sign in experience, like okay, it's I'd already have my details right. That's why. Okay, let me open this in a new incognito that you'll completely know that. Okay, so it goes and it uses OAuth protocol. Okay, and then it would show up like it now my AD is talking to Gmail. Okay, and it says user to provide details. Okay, so these details are third party details because your Azure doesn't have these details in its system. Okay, so once I give proper things, and then it will get a ID token, and that particular ID tokens and claims, you can see what Google is returning to AD. Okay, and then Azure Active Directory, and then Azure Active Directory would would give a token and claims to your application. Okay, and you will be so once you get this all details, you can see that my email ID with which I have logged in was this, and you can use these particular details to onboard this customer into your own application as well. Okay, so this is identity provider, this is object identifier, like my Gmail identifier detail it is, and you have like this is a session detail, and then uh, yeah, then my name. Okay, so this would it would display. So that's what is how you authenticate with Google using this app. And then the same thing you can apply for Facebook as well. That will also work fine since I have all the details in place, right? Um, Same thing, like ADA would talk with the OAuth protocol with these particular identifiers and get me all of the claims which I require and present at my app. And like when I click the to-do list, right, like you can see that my details, everything, which it got from Facebook. Okay, so this is to-do list. When I click a to-do list, right, it actually goes and gets a token from AD. Okay, and then it would make a call to my API. Okay, so I don't know why it is saying it again. Let me let's try with another sign in. I'd go sign up and sign in. Let's try with LinkedIn. So you would basically would you will be seeing. I don't get man. I'll just clear my data and I'll sign up and sign in again with the LinkedIn. Okay, I mean, what it do is like it would just pop up and says that LinkedIn wants to read certain details of from your website. This particular web application want to read certain details from your LinkedIn profile. So you'll say okay, and then it would proceed on. It will show up the application logo if you have mentioned anything like that. Let's check to the list works or not. So this is a call where like it would make with the API to add a add your details. That's not working, but our authentication with the identity providers are working. This is a claim which I got from linkedin.com. You can see that, and you can make use of this things. You can like you can use a Microsoft account as well. So it just depends upon you, like how you actually use the claims which you get from various identity providers and how you persist in your system. If your like if your profile is sort of like uh, if your application is sort of Swiggy kind of application, you would be interested in kind of getting user location like that by default without a user entering it. And why it's not happening? Okay, just leave it. You saw the all the identity providers, like how they authenticated. The same thing it would work with the Microsoft account as well, which I've configured right now before this session. Okay, but that doesn't look to be working. Okay, so that's what is B2C kind of application work. And it's such easy to have this identity providers configured. Okay, in case if any new identity providers comes, right, you just need to bother about adding in here. Okay, if you want to add some WeChat or some application, or any new guys come, you just add here and get a proper app ID and secret from WeChat and then add it. That's it. I mean, it's such easy. So, so like our complete slides talk about each and every one configuration, and this is the next part of our module itself. Okay, this